Hello everyone and welcome to day number 17 of the 2018 Beer Cartel Beer Advent Calendar. We certainly hope you guys are enjoying the beers so far. Today we are revealing the Holgate Gatekeeper Session Ale, and I am joined by Paul Holgate down in the Mount Macedon Ranges in Victoria. How are you, Paul?
Good, thanks, Jeff, and greetings of the season to everybody. Hope you're enjoying some fantastic beers out there.
Yeah,
cheers.
They are 17 days in, so there's been a range of different beers and lots of people commenting in the socials saying how much they're enjoying it. So we're loving bringing these beers and these videos to everyone at home. As a bit of an introduction, Paul, you are co-founder, co-owner, head brew master at Holgate. Tell us a little bit about yourself and Holgate.
Sure, no worries. Yeah, and I suppose like most small businesses, you wear a lot of different hats. So we're really proud to be one of the early pioneers of the craft brewing scene in Australia. In fact, when we first started in '99, the word craft wasn't even used. No one used the word craft. We were microbrews or whatever. So yeah, we co-founded it together with my wife. And I was a passion home brewer before that during the '90s. And got into brewing as a hobby, and then we decided to start a business. So we started our business in the beautiful little village of Wood End, which is where we were living and where we started raising our family. So 20 years ago now, and we started when we were 30. So aging myself a little bit there, but we've been around for a long time, and I suppose we've really come a long way, and the industry has come a long way too. When we first started, there was no craft industry. It was hard to get anyone to sort of sample, something different from the mainstream. So we've come a long way, the whole industry, which is fantastic. Yeah.
And
so
your inspiration for kind of starting everything, there's a beer named after it. It's after a road trip in the US. Tell us a little bit about that backstory.
Yeah, for sure. So I suppose there's two little stories there about road trips to the US. We were back in '97. We were on holidays in the US, and we just stumbled across the small brewing scene there, the craft scene there. I think we might have been at that time driving around Colorado and the Rockies, and just bumped into a couple of little brew pubs. And we were thinking about starting a business, and I was already a passionate home brewer, and that really inspired us to actually start the business, which we did in '99. But it was actually 10 years later, when we'd been going hammer and tong hard at it, making ends meet for 10 years, running our brew pub and trying to make inroads in industry, that we needed a holiday. And we had kids by that stage. We had a 9-year-old and 11-year-old, and we actually said, I've never actually done a proper beer road trip. So we went to the US, Pacific Northwest, to Seattle and Washington, Portland, Oregon area, and did a road trip just around that area and tasted a whole heap of IPAs. When we came back, it was 2008, started 2009 maybe. We released our first IPA, which we called Road Trip, in honour of that family holiday, if you like. And that brand is still going strong today. And we've kept the recipe the same as a bit of a tradition. So it is a Pacific Northwest IPA, really nice, well balanced with a little bit of crystal malt in there. So it's not a modern day pale West Coast IPA. We keep our Road Trip as it originally was, 6%, beautifully balanced IPA.
So it's probably more along the lines of Anchor's Liberty Ale or something along those lines.
Something like that, Bridgeport IPA, those type of things, yeah.
Cool. And today's beer that we're revealing, that everyone is opening out of their box, is the Gatekeeper Session Ale. Tell us a little bit about this beer, because it is a recent addition to the portfolio for Holgate. What's the inspiration behind it? What should people expect?
So we've been doing it. We've actually been brewing the Gatekeeper brand for a few years now, but really released it widely about 18 months ago in the bottles. So the inspiration, of course, was to have a lower ABV beer available as a session beer. Cheers. But to get some nice hop character in there. So and we didn't want to do a mid-strength mainstream beer, because they're typically lagers. We wanted something with lots of flavour. We wanted to do an ale, so we call it a session ale rather than a midi.
Yeah.
We wanted to create something that had a nice big full body that tasted more like a regulation pale ale. So with, again, a bit of a nod to the traditions or the origins of the global craft brewing movement, we're using US Cascade in this beer. We use a lot of Aussie Cascade in our beers, in our Mount Macedon Pale Ale. So this one we use US Cascade, we use a little bit of Mosaic, and we use a particular low attenuating yeast to keep the body up there. So we start with quite a high original gravity, but it doesn't ferment right out because we use a yeast that doesn't attenuate out. That keeps the body in there, keeps it balanced, and then pack more hops in there. One of the problems about brewing hoppy, low alcohol beers is that their body is often low and they become unbalanced. So the trick is with these beers is to get it balanced by keeping the body up so you can add in a heap of hops. And so we've been pretty successful in that.
It doesn't seem like a 3.5% beer. It drinks closer probably to say 4.5%. Type
for sure, yeah, definitely, and we're really pleased with that. It's got a really nice floral orange blossomy type aroma and flavour, so it's quite fruity. Got those hops in there. Obviously, we're looking for hop character and a bit of aroma without bitterness. So with these lower bodied, lower alcohol beers, you've got to be very careful with the bitterness. So we keep the bitterness down on this, but load up on hop aroma and flavour.
Oh. And now tell us a little bit about the venue there. You're sitting inside part of the brewery or the brew house. You've got it's part of a hotel. It's at the base of the Mount Macedon Ranges. People can stay there. They can have meals and everything. Tell us about if people want to visit Holgate, where you are, how far out of Melbourne you are, and what they can do there.
Sure. Absolutely. So we're running a traditional brew pub. And again, back when we first started, our business plan was to sell 80% of our beer in keg to local pubs. That didn't really work out back in the late 90s because people just wanted to drink BB. So we took a leaf out of the US businesses having your own brew pub. So 3 years after we started, and we started in the backyard at home in Wood End. So Wood End's a small village at the base of Mount Macedon, halfway between Melbourne and Bendigo. So it's about 70k out of Melbourne. It's an easy 45-minute drive or 1 hour by train station. So we're right next to the train station, which is fantastic for visitors. So we took over a historic, iconic hotel. It's a double-story red brick pub, and it was the stagecoach stopover to the Bendigo Goldfields back in the day. So we took that over in the early 2000s. We completely renovated it, created some beautiful accommodation upstairs, renovated the bars, a few function rooms in here as well. So we've got our original microbrewery within the hotel walls itself. We've jammed a big cellar in there as well. And now we've done a massive big expansion over the past couple of years. It's just finishing it with a big building next door to our hotel. It's got our huge, big, high-tech production brewery and packaging line and so on there. So if your visitors coming to the House of Holgate, you've got a iconic traditional pub with full restaurant accommodation, 12 beers on tap. We've got hand pumps here. You can stay the night, obviously, do brewery tours. We've got a bit of a tourism experience in our new visitor centre next to our 50-hectare production brewery. So it's been all happening here with a lot of expansion and development going on.
I love that term that you just used, the House of Holgate. That's such a cool thing to think about. Going to what is a commercial brewery or a brew pub, and it kind of being the house. So I think that's quite a cool way to think about it. And the brew pub,
we've got quite a unique offering here because we do have both a high tech big production going on here now, as well as we've got the original little brew pub, as well as the actual hotel itself, which is an attraction itself. So it's fantastic.
The brew pub model, I think, is an interesting one because for a number of years we've kind of always thought that for the continued expansion of the craft beer industry in Australia, that it has to become more localized, and people who are just trying to contract and then put beers into kegs and then into venues or in bottles and into retail stores. That did work, and there's good case studies. The team behind Two Birds, they started out kind of contracting and stuff, and that's almost 10 years ago. And I think that it's become harder and harder for that to actually be a successful way to get to market for a brewery or a brewing brand. And I think the brew pub model, while you guys were really early on in the stage in the industry to have one, I think now it's actually more and more that's likely what we're going to end up seeing, where you've got a venue where people can enjoy the beers, enjoy a meal. It's family friendly, it's pet friendly. You can either stay the night if they've got accommodation, or you can stay locally within the local local township or in local accommodation. So hats off to starting what is one of Australia's original and first brew pubs of the modern kind of brewing era. And tell me a little bit about what's the future for Holgate. What are you guys planning over the next couple of years?
So yeah, I suppose we've been fairly focused on the development. We had a pretty small capacity with our tiny brew house within the hotel itself, and we were always committed to making the beer ourselves. So it's been part of our philosophy. We never went and got our beer contracted by anyone else. So the business has been pretty committed in raising funding and doing this building project and development, putting in some big capacity and high tech stuff. So which we've done that. So for us, it's all about working with the market now. Next couple of years, we've got some new releases coming through, some can releases and so on. We've got quite a big sour beer program going along as well. And we actually are contracting beer for other people as well with our new facility. So we've got lots of fingers in different pies going forward. But as you said before, one of our big focuses is to get people to come out to Woodend to see this beautiful area. It's where Hanging Rock is, Mount Macedon, Dalsford Mineral Waters are nearby. They can see where the beer's being made. They can have a really strong interaction with the brewery, and getting people to come out and experience it and to understand or to learn about what is craft beer? Why is it called craft? Why is it different to mainstream beer? That's part of our deal going forward, is to educating people and giving them a fantastic experience, as well as obviously producing some cracking beers. So we've got some great different hybrids coming through. Now we've got our big capacity on. We've got more ability to do lots of seasonal releases. So each month we're releasing a different seasonal release at the marketplace and being able to have a fantastic play around with things. I suppose my original brewing traditions go back to European brewing traditions, because when I first started home brewing in the early 1990s, take people a little while to think about this, but there was no internet when I first started brewing. I'm not that old, but there was actually no internet when I was learning home brewing in the early 90s. So we looked at books and we got beers off the shelves, and the books you could get and the beers off the shelves you could get weren't from America. Yeah. Which a lot of people who get into the industry now just immediately look to America. What we could get hold of was European beers. So we were drinking and brewing British Isles beers, Belgian beers, and German wheat beers. That's what I cut my teeth on brewing, and I suppose you can still see a flavour or a smattering of those sort of styles throughout the Holgate portfolio now. And of course, we got into making. We were one of the first release IPAs back in the mid 2000s, so we love our hops and that sort of thing as well. But so we've got the ability to play around with different things in our tradition, and we've got Belgian beers and making hobby Belgian beers, and that follows through to the sours as well. We're doing as well. So yeah, it's a fantastic opportunity for us to explore, looking back into our past and looking forward into the future as well with our range and with our seasonal specials.
Cool. Well, I want to say a big thanks for joining me today on the video call. And yeah, I certainly hope that everyone at home that's enjoying the beers, enjoying the Gatekeeper Session Ale.
Yep.
Paul, have a great Christmas and New Year period. I hope it's prosperous for you, and I look forward to seeing what yourself and the team have got planned for 2019.
Thanks, Jeff, and Merry Christmas, everybody. Enjoy your beer. Cheers.
Cheers, Paul.